Pecha Kucha 123, Red Dwarf, and the name of the game. It's. I spent a lot of time out of the house this week and I didn't actually have any logo work for a change. I turned down a job, it seemed a bit too shady. So it's back to the de facto format of talking about comics and entertainment. So the name of the game I read on Monday by Will Eisner, the man, the myth, the legend. He's a Jewish comic book creator. This is a story that is ostensibly about Jewish families going back in time, and it's also a story that transcends several generations. And it's the name of the game is Marriage. It's about the intermarrying of several Jewish families in America who are looking to either maintain or improve their social standing as time goes by. So I wasn't really going to talk about the synopsis, but that's kind of what's happened as I grabbed the pictures. So like this womanizing blonde dude here is the son of the first patriarch of the Arnheim family, who is a lush and a womanizer, and he takes over the family textiles business. He doesn't want to settle down until he gets older, and then he does, but then he ends up with a wife who doesn't want to have kids, and he develops a terrible habit of punching her in the face when she doesn't want to have sex with him. Terrible stuff. But you know, this is the first time in the comic you see one of the characters become his father, and then he has his second daughter marries like a poet because she doesn't really give a shit about the family name, but when they get married, her and the poet, he marries into the family business, which is now like the stock market because their father switched businesses, during World War One or Two, and then she ends up, when her husband becomes her father in terms of how he behaves himself because he gets sucked into the family name, that she starts rowing with him like her mother rowed with her father. There's a lot of stuff I can't talk about, so let's just move on to Red Dwarf. It's worth reading because there's a lot of social commentary there. And there's also social commentary in Red Dwarf because science fiction kind of that's a part of the myriad of things it offers. Red Dwarf, of course, is also a British comedy. In the first two seasons, there's a very definite identity that kind of vanishes as the series goes on. It's about Lister, Rimmer, and Lister's pursuit of Kachansky, the woman he never spoke about wanting to marry, but he did. He's on the Red Dwarf mining ship and becomes the sole survivor of a nuclear reactor meltdown thing. This guy, the cat, in the first two seasons, his wardrobe is ridiculous. It's phenomenal. The show doesn't even have that high a budget. I don't know how they keep putting him in these flash suits, but it's worth knowing. I just find it brilliant. From season 3 onwards, Crichton shows up as a regular member. He's the guy on the left. I'm just assuming you know what Red Dwarf is because, I mean, if you don't at this point, you don't care. He joins, and then the show kind of becomes like Cowboy Bebop, where they just go on adventures every episode, and there's not an awful lot of continuity to concern yourself with. And quite a lot of episodes revolve around the premise that Rimmer is an irredeemable prat. And it's sad because every once in a while he has character development, but the show sometimes can't reconcile being a science fiction with a comedy while staying interesting over several years. So this is a page of ink work I did with no underlying layers, and it's kind of 3 segments: the top bit, the middle bit, and the bottom bit, which were done weeks apart. It's bizarre how long it took me to fill this blank space. And there's a varying quality as it goes down. I do feel like if I could get this level of I look at the turtles specifically and think if I could just control the proportions a bit better, I'd be quite happy to look like one of those guys who was doing black and white comics in the 80s, 90s. I'm kind of feeling the Predator on the left because it feels like every line's in the right place compared to, say, the Bison in the middle, where he just kind of looks dirty because I've just put lines down, but not with any great amount of care. And I like the carefree nature of the Smiley and the Chun-Li. But I also found time to go back to my chalk brush, and drew Grigori from Dragon's Dogma. He is the dragon from Dragon's Dogma. A very cool boss character. I don't think I could put him on the Smiley show, but I might try anyway. That's an interesting premise. I did my 4th Colt Cougar draws. I did Venom. Feeling good about this one because, he's not really that complicated a character. I've drawn him quite a lot, comparatively speaking, to the other characters. I say that like I didn't do Smiley and Vegeta. But, yeah, he's one of those characters that looks pretty good when rendered with, like, my favorite brush, the chalk brush in Manga Studio. And he has not an awful lot of character detail, so I can get by with a crude understanding of human anatomy. I mean, like, yeah, this isn't what people look like. But then Venom isn't really what people look like. And I think the coloring doing like rapid coloring is not really a clever idea, but this one went a bit better than the Jaggy one. The shading is still horrible, but if you squint, maybe it looks passable. Right, so Sad Clown of the Week is HMV. They're closing down again for, I think, maybe the second time in 2 years or something. The whole reason I bought Red Dwarf is because I've got a box set, and I was in Croydon because I had to be there, and I went to HMV, saw they were closing down, and just grabbed a bunch of stuff, including the Red Dwarf collection. HMV is the kind of place I would like to work if I didn't know that it wouldn't be as good as I would think it would be in my head. But it is a great place to browse for old movies, new movies, books, surprisingly, video games, T-shirts. Amazon put them out of business so many times at this point. It's amazing that they've actually made it almost to 2020. So I mean, the high street's dying, and that is sad. So the high street is like the sad clown of the decade. It's a really, really cool thing to just browse stuff without having to literally search for something using a search bar, or have things recommended to you that there's always an agenda behind that stuff. But that brings us to the end of Pecha Kucha 1, 2, 3, and I'll see you next time.